Book Club. I have been excited for this all week since I spoke to John earlier in the week. I'm just going to let you introduce yourself, show off your books, John, and let's get going because this I've been looking forward to all week. I've done nothing but laugh reading a bonsai tree called Geoff, and we're not going to tell anybody why. So,
No, it's a little
but
secret.
go on, introduce yourself, and we'll get going.
Well, hello everybody. My name is John Donoghue. I'm a recently retired police officer, having spent the last 20 years in the police on response. Prior to that, I was 20 years in the military. I joined the Royal Navy initially back in 1982. I don't know if you can remember, that's the year that Cliff Richard went out with tennis ace Sue Barker. I believe she was unseated that year. Later on, I joined the military police and then civilian police, basically any job with a uniform, a free uniform, that's me. And I've written 5 books altogether. My first book was when I left the military. I went around the funny named places in Britain with my dog. I think of places like No Place, Pity Me, Wet Wang, and that was all recorded in my first book, Tales of the Unexpected. And then I thought all my stories had been told. And then I joined the police. And one of the first jobs I ever went to, I was taking a statement from an elderly lady in her house. And I was sitting there and she was sitting there on the other side of the lounge about a few yards away. And halfway through taking the statement, the door nudged open and a German Shepherd dog came in, looked around, and then proceeded to squat down in the middle of the room and did a big turd. I looked over at the lady and she was just drinking a cup of tea as if nothing had happened. And the dog looked around then and just potted out. So I thought, well, it's not my house, it's not my dog. It's not up to me to tell the creature off. So I didn't say anything. But about half an hour later, when I finished, I thought, I've got to find out what's going on. So as I was leaving, I said to the lady, look, when I was taking a statement and your dog came in and did a big poo in the middle of the room, why didn't you say anything? And she said, my dog? I thought it was your dog. So she genuinely thought it was like a police dog waiting in the car who had, got bored of waiting for me and come in and did his business. But well, we never did find out whose dog it was in the end. And that's when I thought, fact is stranger than fiction in the police. So I've got to start writing these stories down. And so I've written 4 books now about the funny, bizarre or interesting jobs that I've gone to in the police. The first was Police Crime and 999, the true story of a frontline officer. That went down really well. The next was Police Lies and Alibis. And the third...
Great titles.
And the third was Police Arrests and Suspects. And then the only problem I had with writing books while I was still serving is that I had to pass them through the hierarchy for them to sort of rubber stamp, and every now and again they'd say, well, you can't really say that, or you can't say the other thing. And so when I retired in April this year, after I retired, I released my final book, a bonsai tree called Geoff. And this was police stories I probably shouldn't share. And so without anybody to come and vet anything, I could just tell the stories that I hadn't been able to tell in the past. And that's where we are now.
I have done nothing but laugh. Like we were saying before we went live, it's really tricky to talk about a bonsai tree called Geoff because A, we're not going to explain what the title is. People need to go and buy the book. Mm-hmm. And B, there's 22 stories in there, and you don't want to give anything away, but at the same time, we want people to know what the book is like. And obviously, that story then, it's a pretty good indication of what you're going to get. But the first story in there just made me laugh. I mean, how do I word this? I was going to say, what do you do with a nude man and a dog? But that sounds completely wrong. So I think because that will be on the if you look inside on Kindle, you can kind of see generally the first, first 5% of the book or whatever it is. So I don't think it's giving too much away to talk about that one. What do
No,
you
I
think?
agree
Do
with
you
you.
want to talk about that first story? I can
Well,
kind of not picture it now. That's wrong as well. But I was explaining it to my husband earlier on. I just couldn't tell him for laughing.
and that's the thing with, I found it in the police. Sort of, as I was saying earlier, fact is stranger than fiction. You couldn't make the stories up. If you try to make them up, they would sound too convoluted, as if you were trying to sort of make them up. But in reality, it's these things happen. And it started off when a call came over on the radio. I was early one January. One night, I was sitting with a colleague in the Panda car.
Nice warm January.
Nice warm January. And a call came over on the radio saying, naked man in dog snatch. So obviously all sorts of things go through your mind when you hear that. So I had to clarify exactly what they meant. Was it a man getting amorous with a dog or what? But it turns out that a naked man had approached a couple who were out walking their dog and stolen their dog, basically.
I mean, I'm laughing because when you read the story, it's really funny, but that must be terrifying. Imagine you're walking your dog at night and some naked man comes up to you and scolds you and takes the dog off you.
Well, not only terrifying for the people, terrifying for the dog as well.
Sure.
But and basically, the chapter sort of goes through my my attempts to get the dog back, and as we go through, we found out more and more things that this naked guy had been involved with beforehand. But yeah, it's the last thing you expect to find on a January cold January night. Saying that, it helps make the shift go a bit faster.
I'm not sure that's the kind of shift you should be hoping for, John.
The next story, not to spoil things, but the next story was where I used to police weddings, funerals, and christenings were very big for fights. It seems the only thing that can spoil family time is family, and but it's quite rare though. For what happened, I got called to a fight at a wedding. I ended up arresting the bride in her white dress, and the bride's mum and the groom's mum also came in as well. So even in a world which we live where I go to fights at weddings quite often, arresting the bride is still quite a rare thing. And I think that's the thing. When you read a lot of books, you think that people have a perception of the world through what they see. And I had certain perceptions of what the police would be like from, the way that from watching telly and reading books. And I do talks now and again about the 10 life lessons I've learned from the police. And in it, I went through, first of all, what I expected the police would be like when I joined. So obviously, most crimes are solved by a chief inspector with his sergeant sidekick. During all police investigations, it'll be necessary to visit a strip club at least once. If anyone is guarded in hospital by a police officer, they're guaranteed to be killed. If you ever have to transport a high-value prisoner, your vehicle is guaranteed to be T-boned by a black SUV, and everyone in your
Absolutely. Yep.
A million and one DNA match comes up 99% of the time. A detective can only solve the case after he's been suspended from duty. This was from the bill. If you see a suspect you need to arrest, you don't grab them, but you just shout, "Oi!" really loudly, giving them a chance to run off. And then anyone with a crucial piece of information won't divulge it on the phone, but will insist on meeting in person. But when you turn up, they're dead. And the final one was that printers always work. And I found out that little box in the corner that tells me stories has been telling me lies, because being in the police was nothing like that at all. And yes, a different world. And we spend 99% of our time looking after that 1% of society that are trying to spoil it for everybody else. And, I thought I'd be patrolling down leafy avenues and all the rest of it, but no, we spend most of the time on the same estates with the same people. 1 week they're the victim, next week they're the perpetrator. So yeah, it's a different world altogether.
I suppose that's one of the things. Hi, Kaz. We've got Caroline Maston saying hello. One of the biggest things must be, as you say, you join the police and you've seen kind of things on TV, you've read things in books, maybe newspaper articles, and the actual reality must have been quite a shock.
Yeah, I think one of the first lessons that I talk about when I do my lecture is the first lesson I learned was ABC, and that's a lesson for all police officers everywhere. Assume nothing, believe nobody, and challenge everything. And that's a lesson that's sort of served me well throughout my police career. It's not made me very popular with the local vicar, but that's another thing.
So you retired in April. Congratulations.
Thank you. That's over 40 years serving Queen, King and country, so I'm quite pleased with that.
You've got to be pleased with that. Fantastic. And why did you decide to start writing some of the stories down initially?
Well, it's just with the dog story, the Alsatian coming in the room, I thought there's so many good stories, and I started to realise that your brain can only hold a certain amount of stories. As another one come in, another story comes in, another one drops out and is lost forever. And my memory's getting worse. I can't even remember now which of the 7 dwarfs betrayed Jesus. So it's there's so much that I forget now. So and my stories aren't necessarily better than any other police officer stories. It's just that I've written them down, so I remember them. Because most police officers, if you say to them, "Oh, tell us a funny story," they can't think of anything offhand. But if you start chatting to them and down the pub, they'll suddenly remember, oh, this, and remember that. And so hopefully my stories, I've written them down, and it'll get other police officers talking about their own stories then, and saying, oh, well, this happened to me, well, that happened to him. So
have you ever been telling a story and found out that somebody else was kind of a witness to it, or that you didn't realise at the time?
Well, I used to live in a little small village, and after the incident where I arrested the bride at a wedding, I came back and I was telling some friends in the village, about the incident, and one of them said, "Yeah, that's my cousin," and they said that's why I didn't go to the wedding, because I knew something like that would happen. So yeah, but normally the good thing is about it, most of the people who appear in the story, are quite unlikely to read my book. So, but all names and places have been changed anyway to protect the guilty. So, hopefully, I've had nothing come back yet. So,
I did like that line when I was reading. I was looking on must have been Amazon when I downloaded the book, and it was very much that made me laugh. The idea of protecting the guilty by not revealing who they are.
Yeah.
I like twists on things like that, and you are a naturally funny man. Do you think a lot of years in the force kind of knock that humour into you because you need that kind of that line, that barrier?
Well, yeah, exactly right. I think the time in the military and the time in the police, you need to look at the funny side of things if you can. Otherwise, you just go a bit potty, really. So I always try and look at the bright side of things, and you don't want to. Some things are serious, but there's always a funny side normally that you can look at. But saying that, 40 years working in the police and the military has got me into a certain way of behaving. And I work part time now at a castle doing medieval tours. And I found that the other staff at the castle sometimes don't share my sense of humour, and they're a bit shocked by what I say. So yeah, it's been a bonus because it's kept me sane throughout my time in the police. But I've got to be aware now that not everybody shares that sense of humour outside the police.
It's not an easy thing, is it? Because you're judging people, literally as soon as you meet them on what this crowd that I've got today, where's the line with this crowd? Where's the line with this humour? And you're trying to figure out that just based on a couple of, a bit of small talk, a couple of handshakes maybe. And what do? Do you just kind of ease in slightly and then rein back when you realise that's far enough, John?
Well, it's I've done enough tours now to realise what I can and can't do. I always start off with a minor little joke to get them on side. I say that because I do the medieval tour in ordinary clothes, but I say, I was thinking of wearing a suit of armour to do this, but I thought it might make me look a bit middle-aged. So and normally they think, oh yeah, so they quite like that. And at one stage, I pack everybody into the old prison in the castle, and so we were all packed in like sardines. And I spoke to one woman last week who said, "Oh, my husband's had to go off. He's taking an important phone call." And so I said, "Oh, what does he do?" She said, "Oh, he's something in oil." So I presume he was a sardine, but So it's not so much with the members of the public; it's with the staff who you trust, and then you find out, oh, maybe they share their humour, but it's you live in I'm just thankful that I've made it to my pension without being pulled up.
We talk about your humour because we've only spoken. This is the second time. We had just a few minutes earlier this week, and we're chatting away. But as well as your humour, things that come, the main thing that comes through is your warmth, and that must be something that was, really when your warmth really comes through. As much as you are funny and you are very easy to talk to, you're a very warm person straight off. So that must be something that was also really important during your time in the military and the police.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're doing a role in the police, and you've got to, sort of prevent crime. But to be honest, nowadays, there's so little of our job actually preventing crime. A lot of our job is dealing with vulnerable people, and people who it's their little cry for help. And so you've got to be a people person to try and help these people out. Your job in the police is not just to black and white tell people what they can and can't do, but you're there to help people as well. So hopefully, I'm pleased that comes through. It's very kind of you to say.
There's something about warm people that will always draw me in, and if you're warm and funny, then yeah, friends for life, John. So how is this must be a huge change for you. You've gone from very active, lots of people around, never being quite sure what's happening, or what might happen, not what's happening, what might happen, what you might face, to working part-time, writing from home. It must be quite a different pace of life for you at the moment.
It is, and I love it. When I was at work, as you say, you never know what's going to happen. You can go to the most innocuous of incidents. I've been stabbed in the face. I've been at broken bones. I've had, almost had my arm pulled out with a socket. There's so many things happen, and a lot of the time, the jobs that you think are going to be easy turn out to be the hardest. But I've spent a lifetime of getting up at 5 a.m. to go for early shift, or staying up all night for night shift, and your body doesn't like that. Your body wants a routine, and so now I've retired. I love just getting to an ordinary routine. I can follow the hobbies that I've always wanted to do again. I love doing the castle. It's lovely, sort of sending people away with a smile on their face and getting them laughing, and it's nice to talk to a group of people who don't want to fight you and swear at you, or not yet anyway. So, but it's just so I must admit, I feel I've served my time, and I'm quite happy now just to sit back and take life a bit easier.
I think you can say with 40 years of service, you have absolutely earned some time to do whatever the hell you want.
Well, hopefully,
Within reason, let's not, get naked and wander through the town, but, there still has to be that line.
Well, that touches on my next project, because I can't write about my experiences in the police now. So I thought I've got to have another project to write about. And I've decided, after sort of 40 years of maintaining law and order, my next project is going to be finding bizarre laws and breaking them. And so I don't mean anything sort of too serious, but things like there's the Metropolitan Police Act, 1839, Section 5. You're not allowed to carry a plank of wood through the streets of London unless you're loading it or unloading it. You're not allowed to fly a kite in a public place. You're not allowed to handle a salmon suspiciously. And so these are things I thought, well, what I'll do, I'll write a book about breaking those laws, weird laws, and how to break them. So, and see if I get arrested. My friends from Singapore, they were saying that you're not allowed to chew chewing gum over Singapore, but I might not try that, because I think
that one might be a bit too far there. Yeah,
I think they might be.
Can we go back to the suspicious salmon?
Yeah.
How would one handle a salmon suspiciously?
Well, I suppose you could, if somebody was putting their numbers into a cash point machine, you could poke the salmon's head round so he was looking at the numbers. And so I'll have to think of how I can handle him.
You're going to have to kind of have one of those, those. This is probably not a very good joke. The flasher jackets, but with salmons in. But as I was saying, I was thinking we don't want to be encouraging flashing.
Well, no, in fact, we had a flasher in Sanford, where I used to police, and we all thought that he was retiring from flashing, but he decided to stick it out one more year. So,
like I said, my dad would have loved this book. It's I don't know how politically correct a lot of it is, but my word,
I think yeah. I think
I mean, here's me with the flasher jacket joke, which we're not encouraging at all. But different ways to. I mean, of all the weird laws, we were talking the other day, and I said the only one I could think of was the bale of hay in the back of a black cab, going back to the horses.
Mm-hmm. Well,
there must be so many. Sorry, go on.
Well, as I started researching, I mean, obviously these obvious ones, like you're not allowed to be drunk in a pub, which is a fine line to sort of find. But people think that you're not allowed to put a stamp on upside down. They think that's illegal, but you actually can do that. But it's not. You're not allowed to. Obviously, you're not allowed to drink and drive, but you're also not allowed to drink and drive cows. You're not allowed to drive cows down the street whilst drunk either. And I went to one house where the neighbours were complaining about the pig next door, and they're going on, oh yeah, pig next door, pig next door. And I thought they were just being rude about the neighbours. So I went next door, and there was a pig next door, and they had a pet pig. But they were saying, like, the regulations for the pet pig, they weren't allowed to walk it just down the street on a lead. They had to sort of approach the council first and agree routes that they were going to take. And there's all sorts of rules and regulations about these things. So I thought I'll try and find out the most bizarre of these. And I don't know if I can find a pig to walk down the street, but I can fly a kite. I don't
know, but I didn't know that you could only walk a pig down the street with permission.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So there's all sorts of things. There's or if you're a cab driver, it's illegal to ask any of your passengers if they've got the plague or smallpox. So again, I don't know where some of these laws came from. You're not allowed to gamble in a library. So yeah, so there's a lot
Foiled
of,
again.
and the thing is, I feel quite safe in breaking most of these because I'm sure that most police officers are unaware of what some of these laws are. I certainly wasn't aware of them. If I saw somebody beating their carpet in the street, I wouldn't think, "Oh, that's illegal. You can't do that." But that's illegal as well. So
I know there
so
are some countries in Europe where, well, probably all over the place, where certain things aren't allowed on certain days. So, beating a carpet to clean it in Germany on a Sunday was, I don't know if it still is, whether it's been kind of changed, that wasn't allowed. That was illegal. So there are some really weird things. You must be having so much fun looking through all of this stuff.
well, it's interesting as well because when I do the medieval tours, I talk because we all write our own tours for the castle,
Mm.
and I write because of the military and police. I write a lot about being a knight or law and order, but I also talk about what people ate in those days, and they used to love their meat, and so I used to eat meat a lot, and as well as pork and mutton, the more exotic meats like venison and swan and heron. But there were a lot of saints' days and holy days when they weren't allowed to eat meat and they had to eat fish. So the question is, what do you do if you love meat? You've got to eat fish, but you really love meat. And what they do, they'd eat a beaver because they'd say, well, a beaver swims, so well, we'll call that a fish. And the same with ducks and the same with geese. They swim, so well, we'll call that a fish as well. So people had ways of getting around laws even way back then as well. So yes, it was interesting to see sort of how laws develop and how people get around things. So
We've got hello from Malcolm as well. Hi, Malcolm.
Malcolm.
I would like to ask you about TV shows because obviously not everything is going to be, the entertainment is probably going to come first in a lot of respects for a lot of shows. On the scale of, 1 to 10, 10 being absolutely drives you insane, can you cope with watching things that are, you know,
I suppose,
it's entertainment based rather than law based?
well, I suppose it's a bit like a nurse or a midwife watching a casualty or
Mm.
sort of one of those programs, and they'll be saying, "You don't do that. You don't do." And so when I'm watching military programs, war films, I think, hang about, you've got to change the magazine on that. There's only a certain amount of bullets per magazine, and so it frustrates me a little bit sometimes. I've noticed if you look at British TV programs or British police programs and American police programs are totally different. Generally,
Yeah.
in British programs, the PCs really don't do anything, and it's everything done by the chief inspector and the inspector. In America, it's totally different. The detectives and the cops are out doing everything, and the boss, the captain in the office, is just there banging his fist on the table, telling them off. So it's funny how in America it's the troops on the ground doing everything, and on programs in Britain it's the bosses doing everything, isn't it? So yeah, I don't know why that is,
Are
but
you a nightmare to watch TV with? Because my husband is. Can't sit and watch something with him because he'll look up and he'll go, that won't happen. Or he'll look up and he'll explain why something's wrong or how something should work. And I think it's why I like reading because he can't spoil that.
I must admit I've learned to my cost not to do that now. So I just sit, but I prefer to watch. I prefer funny things on telly. The funniest thing I've seen recently is have you ever watched Plebs?
No, I've seen little clips, but I've never actually watched it.
Ah, fantastic! It's like a cross between a Carry On film and The In-Betweeners. It's fantastic, and so I've loved that. Um, and Curb Your Enthusiasm. Have you seen that?
Again, I've seen adverts for it. It looks really good.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, I've not watched it.
but the problem I find now is you go onto Netflix and you see or Prime and you see something, only one series was made in 2020, and you think, oh, I don't want to spend 10 hours watching that just to be left on a cliffhanger. So, you know, there's not so many things that carry themselves through nowadays, is there?
I've
Or
been watching and go on.
Or I'm just waiting for somebody to pick up my books to make a police series out of that.
Oh, can you imagine the sketch show you could have with your books? Absolutely. Get on to somebody at the Beeb. You just need to get chatting with someone, because once they start reading this, they're not going to be able to put it down. They're not going to stop laughing. And it's so ridiculous that it's brilliant. You can't get away with this kind of stuff in crime fiction. But actual stories that have happened, genius.
Well, it's, you know, there's a sitcom, you know, series in each book really, and I'm trying to get them made into. I've been approached by a lot of people who have partially sighted, saying, "Oh, can you do an audio version of it?" And so I'm trying to look into that now to see if I can get, because you know, that's the new rock and roll, isn't it? I think a lot of people listen to audiobooks now. And does that count as reading a book if you listen to it?
Absolutely, and it's one of the we very rarely get on a soapbox in UKCBC because you can get knocked off it quite quickly. But any format that a book comes in is reading a book, whether it is audible. This is not me having a go at you. This is me attacking a problem that we hear. I don't understand why an audio book wouldn't be a book, or a Kindle book isn't a proper book. No, absolute nonsense. Whatever way you are getting that information, that is your book.
Well,
That's
exactly.
it. Nobody can change my mind on that.
No, I think you're exactly right. It's down to sort of book snobbery, isn't it? You know, where
I
people
understand, like, people used to, when Kindle first came out, it was like, oh no, I want a proper book. I get it, but we've moved on. We want to be accessible for everyone. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? So it can be quite offensive, I think, to some people if their book that they're reading isn't seen as a book.
Well, I read. I've got some books, but when I go on holiday, that's when I read more than any other time. And I used to pack 6 books into the suitcase, and 2 would be great, 2 would be okay, 2 would be totally rubbish. But you're stuck with them. But with a Kindle, you can take away 20 books, can't you?
Yeah.
And
100, 1,000. You can have
yeah,
as many as you want.
so no, I'm a convert to the Kindle. I must admit, though, if I really like a book, I sometimes read it on Kindle and buy it in hard copy as well to
Yeah.
have on the shelf. I don't know. It's an illness that I've got. I don't know why.
I have the same. I'm not going to call it an affliction, because I think we are the lucky ones. You read it and then you want a reminder of it. Absolutely, right there with you. Malcolm's laughing at us, but I can't think at which point his comment came up. Donna's agreeing 100%. I think that must be about any book's a book. Leslie, hello Leslie, loves Kindle and audiobooks, and Malcolm doesn't have a TV. Not the only person. I wouldn't have a TV, I don't think, if I don't know, if I lived on my own, but I don't, married with kids, but I don't think I'd have a TV.
Well, I must admit, I don't watch a lot of TV now, except, you know, at night time I'll come in and see what's on Netflix. But most of the series and sitcoms that are around are not very good at all nowadays. So
do you not watch old ones? I'm still kind of addicted to Frasier. I still watch quite a bit of Frasier.
Yeah. Frasier's good. There's a few, some of the American ones that are fantastic, aren't they? But
Me and my son have been watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine together, and there's quite a few series of that. And I only watch it when he's here. He doesn't live here. He's a grown-up, so he's gone. But we sit and watch that together, and it's brilliant. But that's our thing, so I don't watch it without him. Have been watching a series called SWAT, which is, there was a film called SWAT, which was Colin Farrell and I forget who else off the top of my head, which was brilliant. And now it's an American series, and you're absolutely right. You know, it does seem like the commander sending the troops out, although he does get involved at times. You know, he mixes things up sometimes. But it is interesting to think of the contrast between British and American TV. And it's the same with fiction, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, it probably is. It's well, I must admit, I don't really read a lot of crime books. The last proper big book I read and prepared to be. I'm not trying to sound all highfalutin now, but I read the Count of Monte Cristo,
Ooh.
and it was fantastic actually. But mainly, I've just been reading books about the Middle Ages. Middle Ages Unlocked, the Canterbury Tales, Medieval Lives, just to sort of get more information for my talks and things. So
It never occurred to me that you'd have to write your own talks, which I suppose seems quite obvious when you think about it. You know, they want to know that you can do the job.
well,
I never thought about it.
I think the good thing is about it, by doing that, is that you're more passionate about it because you've written it. So other people, like the castle where I work, is fantastic. The greatest knight who ever lived um, lived there. The birthplace of the future king of England. So I talk about that. Other people talk about how the first invasion of Ireland was planned, or how travel routes. And it's like when I do my police talks, I write all those, and so you're more invested in it because you've
Mm.
written it. So I enjoy doing that.
Yeah. It's a really good idea, especially because, like you say, every person is going to have their own slant. So you could
Mm,
literally do, say, there were 5 people in the castle, there were
mm.
tour guides. You could do 5 different tours in one day and learn
Yeah,
something new from every single one, which is brilliant. Just never
no,
occurred to me
exactly.
that it didn't come with a script. It's your job.
Yeah, yeah. So no. So it's you just got to learn what you're talking about. But no, I love doing that. But I've started doing my police talks again now about the 10 life lessons. They used to go down well, but one inspector came and banned them. He said they were subversive. So so I've started doing that. But they're quite interesting because the 10 life lessons vary enormously from that ABC to things like if you have an argument with your spouse, always know where your toothbrush is. I went to one job, one domestic, and the woman was telling me afterwards that whenever she has an argument with her husband, she cleans the dog's teeth with with his toothbrush. And I had a look at the dog's teeth, and so I think they must have had a lot of arguments because the dog's teeth were sparkling. But there's all sorts of things like that. Um, but it is as well as these interesting facts come out as well. Have you heard of the bystander effect?
It's one of the questions I was going to ask you because it comes up in the very first story in the book.
Hmm.
So, yeah, go for it.
Well, yeah, it's just a surprising thing where the more people that witness an incident, a distressing incident, the less that they're likely to help because you're there. I don't know whether it's peer pressure or whether people don't want to be embarrassed, or they look around and thinking, well, nobody else is helping that poor guy who's lying on the floor with blood coming out of his head, so well, maybe I shouldn't. But if you see somebody on their own, you're more likely to go and help.
Mm.
We've had a couple of numerous incidents where we had not naked people stealing dogs, but we've had naked people wandering around the street, um, and you find out they've been wandering around for ages because people just think, well, nobody else is doing anything, so I won't. So yeah, it's an odd thing. So that's one of the unusual things as well. Some of the other life lessons is that never in the history of calming down has anyone ever calmed down by being told to calm down. But it's also what people love as well is the bizarre 999 calls. Um, so in the first book, I go into these quite a bit about. We had an irate caller because McDonald's has stopped doing breakfast at 11 o'clock. Now it's annoying, I grant you, but not really a police matter.
Mm.
Or my 8-year-old won't get in the bath, so they expected us to come and sort it out. I don't know if they call us if their baby wasn't going to go to sleep. Would they want us to arrest him for resisting arrest? Somebody rang in about reporting a bad haircut. How bad does your
Ooh.
haircut have to be
I
for
was
that?
just going to ask the same question.
The somebody's playing loud music and it's making my legs ache. So but I mean, we're not perfect though. One woman had rung the police to say that she was going to do herself in, and she was lying on the train track, and the call operator said, we'll get police units there straight away, but stay on the line. And so that really didn't go down too well. But
No, I would imagine not.
yeah, so but people ring in to say, there's a big glowing orb in the sky. And we went out and investigated, and it was the moon. So it's just bizarre, the things that that people ring in for, and it's a different world. But one of the things that I learned in the police as well is always be suspicious of a Kinder egg. Because if you go somewhere,
okay, I didn't expect that.
but if you go somewhere and you see a lot of those little, the little yellow eggs, criminals often use them to hide their drugs from the police, and they put it maybe where the sun doesn't shine. And so if you go somewhere and you see quite a few of those lying around, maybe don't touch them without the glove on.
You don't think of criminals laying eggs, really, do you?
But one of the biggest lessons for everybody or anybody watching is never draw a chalk outline around yourself. I've seen a lot of people die that way. So.
I don't even know. Oh, I need to introduce you to one of my friends. You and him are going to get on great. Malcolm asked if you dress traditionally for the talks at the castle.
No, I think I don't know if you missed the first bit, Malcolm. When I started, I dress just in ordinary civilian attire, but I always say to the people who are coming to the tour, I was thinking of dressing up in a suit of armour, but I thought that might make me look a bit middle-aged. So, boom, boom.
I still laughed the second time as well.
And some people get it, some people don't, but...
So, moving forward, what is the plan?
Well, the plan now is to keep on doing the medieval tours. I love that. Although after one tour, I spoke to one young girl and said, did you like the jokes? And she said, did you tell any? So I thought that was a bit harsh. But so I carry on doing that. I also do part-time magic. I do close-up magic as a hobby as well. So the next book will be the big thing as well, doing the police talks. So I suppose there's a lot of people who retire. They always say, I don't know how I found time to work, but I'm just enjoying doing my own thing now. And, whereas I've felt that I've had a good career and I've written about, I suppose I'm quite vain, I suppose, in that I've written 5 books about myself. But it's all things that I've done. So it's just carrying on with the next thing, breaking the law now. Gamekeeper turned poacher.
We've got a debate going on. Well, actually, we've got people chatting in the comments. Donna's saying you have some cracking facial hair, very impressive. Malcolm's saying, don't be personal, Morphet.
Well, I funny enough, with my moustache, I initially grew it from Movember years ago, and I found that when I grew it, less people wanted to fight me, and so I thought, oh, maybe I'll keep it then. So I've just kept it then. So yeah. But,
that is one good reason to keep your facial hair. I don't even know how to respond to that. What a bizarre thing. You grow your facial hair and people stop wanting to fight you.
Yeah, well, yeah, not totally, but yeah, it reduced, but yeah.
So we talked a little bit the other day, obviously before this interview, about other things that you might write in the future. So are we going down the fiction route at some point?
Well, I don't know, maybe, but the thing is, I suppose I've not got enough of a good imagination to sort of write fiction. I'm taking the easy option at the moment, writing about things that have happened to me. And I'm not a classically trained writer. I don't sort of plan a book out. I just write things as they happen. And I don't write it thinking, what will people like? And so I write it to fit that agenda. I basically write what I like, and I've been lucky enough that people have liked it. So yeah, it's there's no plan. I don't know how the books are going to end when I start, because I don't know what other incidents are going to happen. So I don't know if I could go down the fiction route. I thought of maybe like a murder mystery at the castle, bringing in some things there, maybe a bit sort of in a cab file type way. But who knows?
Malcolm, who is watching, is a brilliant author, and he will be the first one to tell you that just write whatever you're thinking, because the thing is, you've got such a natural storytelling voice, John. You start reading, and I don't think you've thought about just how much you've had to think about how to put the story into words to make it readable and enjoyable. You just seem to have a natural skill for it. So I think give it a go. I'd love to read whatever fiction you write, because you're going to know what's funny for a start. You know how to add some warmth. You know how to. There's a good balance of the team in the books. It's one of the things I always look for. Who can create a good team? Well, you're not necessarily creating them, but you are, because you're selecting the bits that you know are going to resonate with the reader. You know what's funny, you know what works, you know when somebody's, telling the team off, how that should come across. You're already halfway there. You just need to put the story in now.
Yeah, well, maybe something. It's something that I can have in the little duffel bag to pull out and maybe do sometime. Because I think you've got to have a purpose in life, whatever you do. You've always got to have something to aim for.
Yeah.
Something to challenge yourself with. So yeah, maybe that's something I can go into.
And that's the thing. There's no deadline yet, so you could just kind of give it a whirl, and you'd have plenty of people who would read it for you and give you feedback.
Yeah,
There's
that's
a lot
maybe a
of us
good
in
idea.
this club who are willing to help out. So yeah, I just think you'd write something brilliant. I
Well,
really
the
do. I've
thing
done
is,
nothing but laugh all week reading.
the but what I've found is I get inspiration from other people all the time, and it reminds me of one job I went to. The police area I used to police, there was some quite rough areas. Um, the main town I worked in was quite rough. There was another industrial town further up the road that had links with Las Vegas, twinned with Las Vegas, in that Las Vegas and this town were the only two places that I know of where you can buy sex with chips. But, so there's
Sorry,
them.
anyone who's wondering, I knew where that was going because I read it.
But there was also some quite nasty little villages where every now and again you get a police car petrol bombed and all that. But there was one lovely village, and it was a fantastic, really nice place. And one morning we got a call in from the village postmistress saying that somebody had come in the shop with a shotgun, fired shots into the ceiling, um, stolen all the sort of money in the safe, and we're off. And so we raced there. All the units in the county were out trying to find the car. With a helicopter up, everything. I was the first to get to the post office, and I went in there, and the sub postmistress was in there. She must have been, I don't know, in her 70s or whatever. Lovely lady. She had obviously never seen anything like this at all in her life, and never thought that anything, this badness, would come to this little village. And as I went in there, and you could scrunch the glass underneath, the smell of cordite hung in the air. Everything was wet from the sprinkler system. There were still sort of pound notes and £5 notes hanging around there on the floor. And she was quite shocked. So I took her in the back, and I made her a cup of tea, and because a cup of tea makes everything better. And
Absolutely.
I could see that although she was shocked, she hadn't totally lost her faith in humanity, because she's saying, they came in here shouting, pushing everything, firing in the air. She said, but I don't know where they could have parked, because it's double yellow lines outside. So, so I thought you couldn't, and again, you couldn't make those things up. It's just, it's just lovely that people still have that sense of niceness about them.
Yeah, you've got to have humour in a crisis. How else do you get through it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think mine's a bit more like yours, though. I think my humour needs dialing down a little for some people. So, yeah. John, we've got a minute left. That hour has absolutely flown. Please show off the book covers again. And
So
yeah, we'll have to get you back on when you write this murder mystery.
this is the latest one, A Bonsai Tree Called Geoff, and it's police stories I probably shouldn't share. So that's the sort of the latest one. And then before that, Police Crime and 999, Police Lies and Alibis, and Police Arrests and Suspects. I was running out then of titles to be police something or something. So, and the very first book about being in the military and travelling around the funny name places in Britain was Tales of the Unexpected. When I first wrote that, I had lots of people writing to me asking about writing and all that. And one guy sent me his draft and said, what do you think of this? And I said, I'll tell you what, it's a really good story. I said, but the main character comes over as a bit of a twerp. And that's when he told me it was his autobiography. So it was a bit awkward.
I have absolutely loved getting to know you more this week, John. I can't wait to see what you write next. And I'm going to go back and read the 4 books I missed before book 5, because honestly, the joy you have brought into my week, can't thank you enough.
Well,
I really do hope you come back and talk to us again. I have a feeling we'll all be fighting over who interviews you next.
It's really kind for you to invite me on, so I've really enjoyed it myself as well. And you've made it a very nice, easy, enjoyable process. So thank you.
Bless you. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you to everyone who's watched and asked questions and argued in the comments. I love that. But thank you again, John. So just show us one more time the covers.
So this is the latest one, A Bonsai Tree Called Geoff, and somebody said they went to Waterstones to try and get it, and they said, I don't know what it's called. I think it's called a cactus called George. So
there you go, book number 6.
But there you go, and on Amazon as well, it it lists all the other books that
you're all hooked in, so everyone can find you. And are they all available on Kindle Unlimited as well? It's something that we talk about in the group quite a lot.
Yeah, all available, Kindle Unlimited, Kindle Normal, and paperback as well, and hopefully audio one day if I can get my act together.
Well, I'm sure if you message one of the admins, we can maybe point you in the right direction.
Oh, that'd be excellent.
Thank you so much, John. I can't wait for next time.
Cheers. Thank you very much. See you then. Bye-bye.
And we are done.